Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today is October 13th. The Divisional Series have wrapped up, and it's on to the Championship Series. Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. My name is Steven. This is the middle of the order. How are we doing today, ladies and gentlemen? It is Monday. It is Canadian Thanksgiving. It is all of these amazing things. But it is also baseball playoffs, and that is what we're here to talk about. Over the weekend, we had 3 games go on. We had 2 Game 5s of the Division Series. That wrapped up on Saturday, and yesterday we had the beginning of a Championship Series matchup. But we're going to get into all of that. So I'm very excited to break this down with you guys here. So let's start with Game 5 of the ALDS on Friday. The Tigers and Mariners win or go home, do or die. George Kirby, Tarek Skubal on the mound. You feel like the Tigers have the advantage with Skubal on the mound, but the Mariners had seen him 3 times already this season. Once at home, once on the road in the regular season, and then, of course, once in the postseason already in Game 2. So this is the 4th time that they're seeing Skubal. All 3 previous matchups, they had won. Skubal had dealt once again, 6 innings, 2 hits, only 1 run, and 13 strikeouts. Skubal joins, I think it was Garrett Cole and Bob Gibson, as 2 pitchers to have had 13-plus strikeout games in postseason history. The only difference is Skubal was able to do it in a single postseason. Cole, and I think it was Gibson. It was an old-timey guy. I don't remember the exact name, but I'm pretty sure it was Bob Gibson. They had to do it over multiple postseasons. George Kirby, on the other end, he was dominant as well. 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, and 6 Ks. Let's get into it. In the 2nd inning, Josh Naylor, check swing double down the left field line off of Skubal. And then what he's been doing all season long, he steals third base. A big man like that, who doesn't have the quickest sprint speed, should not be stealing third base, but he's been doing it all season long. Does it here, and it pays off because then Mitch Garver hits a sac fly. In comes Naylor, and the Mariners have the lead. In the 6th inning, Baez, the 9-hole hitter, he gets on. And because Kerry Carpenter has been so amazing off of George Kirby, the Mariners go for a lefty in Gabe Spire to come on in. And what happens? Carpenter, on the 2nd pitch Spire throws, bomb. A 2-run go-ahead shot puts the Tigers out in front. It didn't matter who was going to pitch to Carpenter in the situation. You just knew he was going to hit a 2-run home run. That's what he does, and the Tigers are up 1. With the Mariners threatening, though, in the 7th. 2 runners on. They go to their bench. Leo Rivas gets the pinch hit, and he comes through. A game-tying RBI single. We're tied up at 2. This one needs extras. And it was extra, all right, because we played the 10th inning. We played the 11th inning. We played the 12th inning. We played the 13th inning. We played the 14th inning. We played the 15th inning. Blown chances by both teams throughout that time, mainly Seattle. They grounded 2 double plays. They had 2 innings where they had 2 runners on, nobody out. Gets an out, double play. Double play, strikeout. Like, it was just bang, bang, bang. In the 15th inning, we get that 5th and final run that we were looking for. Bases loaded, 1 out. In the bottom of the 15th, Jorge Polanco rips one to right field. That gets by the 2nd baseman. That scores the winning run. The Mariners walk off into the ALCS. They beat the Tigers 3-2 in 15 innings. What a season for Detroit. Their ups were ups, their lows were lows. I mean, that's kind of what you got to think about when you come to the Detroit Tigers. They were one of the best teams in baseball for about 5 months, and then became the worst team in baseball for 1 month, and ended up missing out on the division. They end up in a wild card series, playing the team that beat them for the division. They handled that, but just like last year, get stuck in a division series against an ALS foe, and end up coming out on the bottom there. Actually, well, they did play an AL West foe, but that was in the wild card round. They beat the Astros last year, lost to the Guardians. This time they beat the Guardians in the wild card round, lose to the Mariners. This game was insane. 298 minutes, about 4 hours and 58 minutes, nearly a 5-hour ball game with a total of 472 pitches thrown. We saw 115 plate appearances, a total of 15 pitchers used in the game, a combined 37 strikeouts. That's tied third most in a postseason game. And in total, 22 runners left on base. An awful game for the offense, but how about the pitching in this game? Mariners, they get a date with the Toronto Blue Jays in the ALCS. We'll talk about those two teams a little shortly here, but they are the winners of the ALDS game. So let's move on now to the NLDS game. These guys played on Friday. The NL Central rivalry that we had all season long. Cubs and Brewers. Brewers took the first two games. The Cubs did what they needed to do at home. Will a road team win a game? It would have to be the Cubs here. No pitchers. No starting pitching really available here. So it's a bullpen game. Drew Pomeranz opens it up for the Cubs. Trevor McGill opens it up for the Brewers. The most innings that the Cubs saw were from Colin Ray, who pitched 2 2/3. Meanwhile, we saw Jacob Misiorowski come out of the pen. He got the bulk of this one. 4 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, and 3 Ks. Once again in this series, though, 5 games, 5 first-inning runs at least. Well, more than 5 first-inning runs, but at least a run scoring in the first inning as William Contreras gets this game, the Brew Crew faithful, a 1-0 lead. He goes deep in the bottom of the first. The Brewers feeling good, but not far after that. In the second, it's the Cubs that make it a brand new ball game. Seiya Suzuki goes deep, 2 solo shot homers. It's 1-1 after 2. In the fourth, how about a third solo shot home run? It's Andrew Vaughn, the guy they trade for from the White Sox, who plays dividends for the Brewers all season long. He comes clutch, hits a solo shot through left field, and the Brewers retake a 2-1 lead. And just in case 3 solo shots wasn't good enough, in the seventh, the Brewers tack on 1 more. Bryce Terang goes yard, an insurance run there. 4 solo shot home runs, and the Brewers up 2. The Cubs down to the last 6 outs. They hold the Chicago Cubs. The Brewers win it 3-1. The home team wins all 5 games in this series, and Milwaukee is heading to the NLCS for the first time since 2018 for a date with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Cubs made a trade for Kyle Tucker in the offseason. They felt very good about it. Season started, and it showed. The Cubs were one of the best teams in baseball for about the first, month and a half here. But then the Brewers got hot, and they came up. They played big games back and forth. Eventually, the Brewers took over the division from the Cubs. The Cubs tried to play catch-up, but the Brewers kept going on these insane winning streaks. And next thing you know, the Cubs had this insane record, but still found themselves about 6-7 games out of the NL Central Division race. They fell short, take care of the Padres in the wild card round, but end up with the Brew Crew once again. They've had games before, big 5-game series, etc. during the regular season. And in this situation, the Brewers come out on top. The Cubs season ends. You got to wonder what this means for the Cubs going forward. We saw a great surge from Pete Crow Armstrong this year, but we also saw him slump hard. Kyle Tucker, his ups, his downs, his injuries. People were wondering what his contract will look like. Will it be with the Cubs? Will it be with another team? I think it was a good steps for the Cubs, but it'll be interesting to see if they can retain this entering next year. So the Cubs become the 26th team eliminated, which means we've got a Final Four. Our ALCS and NLCS ALCS and NLCS matchups are good to go here. But before we start highlighting those series, let's look at the Divisional Series team. I've gone across all 8 teams, and I've come away with the best players from the DS Series here. So let's go. Catcher, the best catcher, of course. No argument here. Big dumper, Cal Raleigh against the Tigers was 8 for 21, a double, a homer, 4 RBIs, 2 runs, 4 walks, a 1.051 OPS. At first base is the easiest decision. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Not only was he the best first baseman, I would say if there was a divisional series MVP, it would have gone to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. 9 for 17, 3 homers, 9 RBIs, 5 runs, a 1.609 OPS. You have to wonder where the Blue Jays would have been without Vladdy. And speaking of Vladdy and Toronto in general, Ernie Clement was playing second base. He was amazing in that Yankees series as well. You're going to see a couple of Blue Jays on the list here. 9 for 14, a double, a homer, 5 RBIs, 5 runs. He did not strike out a single time in the 4 games he played. A 1.554 OPS for Ernie. At third base, you got Max Muncy, who was 4 for 9 with a double, a run, a 1.0560 OPS. Solid stuff there from Max Muncy against the Dodgers third baseman. Kind of on, I would say, overall a weaker position across this whole thing, but is what it is there. Next up, shortstop. Another kind of weak position, if you're going to say anything here. But it went with Javier Baez from the Tigers. He was 5 for 21, a double, a homer, 4 RBIs, 2 runs, and a 702 OPS. Didn't hit much, but when he was coming up clutch. And I guess that's the difference here, because when you actually go through the shortstop positions across all of them, Baez and Crawford had the most hits with 5 in the division series. A lot of the shortstops were struggling. Crawford 5 for 19, Baez 5 for 21, Jimenez 4 for 15, Mookie Betts 4 for 17, Trey Turner 4 for 17, Joey Ortiz 2 for 13. So not really the best numbers there for the shortstop, so gave it to Baez for his clutch hitting when he was hitting. In the outfield, Jackson Chourio from the Brewers, 7 for 18, 2 doubles, a homer, 2 runs, 6 RBIs. He was brilliant. And a big reason why the Brewers are heading to the championship series. A young kid is, the new face in the core of that Milwaukee team. Out there in center field, Dalton Varsho, another Blue Jay, 7 for 16 with 3 doubles, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, 7 runs scored. He was crossing that plate, 1.471 OPS. And it wouldn't be complete without some big mashers here. So, of course, in right field, Aaron Judge had himself a fantastic postseason. The Yankees just couldn't get any help from anyone else, really. 9 for 15 for Judge, 2 doubles, a homer, 6 RBIs, 5 runs, a 1.617 OPS for the big right-handed masher. Then for DH, similar to shortstop, not a lot of great options. The DH position wasn't really balling out for the division series. Gave it to Schwarber. Big reason why the Phillies were able to get to a game 4, 3 for 16, a double, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, 2 runs, and a 903 OPS. For pitchers, a lot of pitchers were very good in the division series. I decided to choose 3 starters and 3 relievers. When you could take that Phillies offense that's so amazing and put them on ice, you're going to get some Dodger pitchers for sure. Blake Snell was great in his start. 6 innings, 1 hit, no runs, and 9 strikeouts. And then even better was Tyler Glasnow. 7 2/3, 4 hits, no runs, and 10 strikeouts. To think, just a few years ago, both of these guys were part of the Tampa Bay Rays team in 2020 that was taking on the Dodgers in the World Series. Both Snell and Glasnow. And now, a few years removed, the Rays are not in the postseason, and both Snell and Glasnow are making postseason starts for the Dodgers. Isn't that crazy? The third starting pitcher that I have on this list here was a guy that nobody knew. I knew him. Trey Yesavage, 5 1/3, no hits, no runs, and 11 strikeouts. Absolutely fooled the New York Yankees. And that kind of start and that kind of history doesn't happen every now and then. So he gets the start there. And those are your top 3 starting pitchers from the division series. And lastly, 4 relief pitchers that balled out. The first guy, and I think the difference maker going forward for the Dodgers here, Roki Sasaki was brilliant out of the bullpen. 4 1/3, got 13 key outs, only giving up 1 hit, striking out 3. He's going to get more confidence. He's very good. Andres Munoz from the Mariners, he pitched in, I believe, all 5 games, going 5 1/3 with no hits, no runs, and 5 Ks. He's going to be a tough cookie to get through. He was if you're the Tigers, and if you're the Blue Jays, he's a guy to circle. You got to get the runs earlier before this guy comes in. He's been brilliant. And then how about Troy Melton from the Tigers? I mean, this guy's got the stamina. He had a lot of big outings for him. Out of the bullpen, 8 innings, 5 hits, a run, and 8 Ks. I mean, there are relief pitchers that didn't give up a run, but Melton went 8 innings out of the pen. 2 innings here, an inning and a half here, an inning a third, etc. And striking out 8. I mean, he was a brilliant ball piece and a bullpen member, and the Tigers are lucky to have this guy because he is, from what I saw in the posting games, very good. I'm excited to go back on his season, see how he's played, and excited to keep an eye on him going forward into the rest of his career because I thought he was brilliant. Just straight up brilliant. That was your divisional series team. And now that brings us to our AL and NLCS previews. We're going to start with the AL, and we've got the Seattle Mariners and the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays, 4-2 in the season series against the Mariners. They last played way back in middle of May, where the Jays swept the Mariners in Seattle on the road. They take care of business there. And then the other series, of course, Mariners take 2 of 3 on the road as well. So it seems like the road teams might have an advantage. They played each other once in postseason history. That was way back. Just kidding, 3 years ago in the 2022 wildcard round. Blue Jay fans are familiar with this one, as well as Seattle Mariner fans, to be fair. But this is, of course, Game 2, that 8-1 comeback by Seattle. Springer, Bo running into each other there. The Mariners won that series 2-0. And that is now where we're at here. The second time they'll meet in the postseason, the third game and onward. The Jays, it's their first time in the ALCS since 2016. For the Mariners, it's been 24 years. You go all the way back to 2001. The best regular season team in baseball history was the last time the Mariners were in the 2001 postseason. These two teams are both hungry. Of course, Mariners have never made a World Series. Blue Jays haven't done so since 1993. So it is going to be a very good series between two fan bases and two teams that are hungry for a date with the World Series. Starting pitchers, matchups, most likely, Bryce Miller was Game 1, Kevin Gausman for the Blue Jays there. Game 2, Logan Gilbert versus Trey Savage. Game 3, it's a TBD for Seattle versus Shane Bieber. And then Game 4 and on is TBDs going forward there. For the Blue Jays, I would expect Scherzer or Bassett for Game 4. I'm leaning more Scherzer, the way that I've seen people talking about it. Then Bassett may be more of just out of the bullpen kind of guy. And then, of course, Game 5, Game 6, Game 7, you would see the repeat. So Gausman Game 5, Trey Savage Game 6, Shane Bieber Game 7. For the Mariners, they have options: Luis Castillo, George Kirby, of course, and then Brian Wu as well. He is on the ALCS roster for the Mariners, was not on it for the division series. He's been dealing with an injury, but he is on it now. Does that mean we'll see him? Maybe, maybe not, but I would expect Luis Castillo to get maybe Game 3, George Kirby to get Game 4, and then maybe you see Brian Wu Game 5, maybe you see him earlier and then do something like that. But I think Bryce Miller will be making the one start he did make in Game 1, and then you'd go Gilbert, Castillo. I would go Brian Wu if he's healthy enough, and then I would put George Kirby in Game 5, repeat Logan Gilbert for Game 6, and then Castillo Game 7 with Brian Wu at the pen kind of deal. It's interesting what the Mariners can do. Of course, they have amazing starting pitching. We've seen that all season long, so watch out for that. Blue Jays, we've seen the offense click against the Yankees. They need to do so as well against the Mariners. As I mentioned in the Division Series teams, Vladdy was 9 for 21, Ernie was 9 for 17, Varsho was 7 for 19. I mean, the team has clicked. Kirk, a little struggle in the Division Series. He was 4 for 22, but did have 2 homers. That was both in the first game. Springer, 4 for 21. He had 2 homers. Nathan Lucas, 4 for 13, but he had 5 RBIs, so he was coming up with some clutch hitting. That's the Blue Jays look like going into this series. Some offense that's been very good. Some pitching that's been very good. On Seattle's end, big dumper, Cal Raleigh, 10 for 25 in the postseason. He's got 2 homers, 5 RBIs. That was, of course, including, just the whole thing in general now. 2 homers now, I guess. Polanco, 6 for 26. Some of these stats I'm just not realizing are actually including an ALCS Game 1 already, because they, of course, played Game 1 already. As I'm looking at these stats, J.P. Crawford's 5 for 23, Victor Robles 3 for 18, Julio 5 for 25, he's got a homer. Eugenio Suarez 3 for 25, but does have a homer. The strikeout numbers have been high on the Mariners. Of course, the Blue Jays not so high at all. The guy that leads the strikeouts on the Blue Jays is George Springer with 7. The Mariners have Cal Raleigh with 9, Polanco with 8, Rodriguez with 10, Randy with 10, Suarez with 10. That's 5 guys alone that have more strikeouts than Springer, who's the top guy on the Blue Jays. The next guy after that with 4 would be a 3-way tie between Varsho, Barger, and Santander. But the Mariners, they've got, plenty of other guys here. So strikeout will play a big factor in this series. Very exciting. It's going to be a great series to watch, guaranteed. This one is probably going to go to Game 6 or Game 7. Speaking of Game 7, Dodgers and Brewers, the last time they met in the NLCS did go to Game 7. The last time they met in the season series was back in mid-July. They played all 6 of their games in July, 3 before the All-Star game break, 3 after. And the Brewers swept both times. They're 6-0 against the Dodgers this season. You have to go all the way back to, I think, August of 2024, the last time the Dodgers were able to beat the Brewers. Of course, July is not October. That's a little bit of difference, and it's going to be a very good series here. This is the 3rd time the Dodgers and Brewers will meet in the postseason. Their most recent meeting actually wasn't in 2018. These two teams met in 2020 for the wild card round. That was during COVID. The Dodgers were the 1 seed. Brewers were the 8 seed, I believe. The Dodgers won both games pretty easily, 2-0 there. Brewers just didn't have any offense really to click, and Dodgers take both games, move on there. But of course, the more notable time these two teams have met was in the NLCS. That was in 2018. That series went to a Game 7. The Dodgers won it 4-3, the final of the series. Of course, 2018 is the last time the Brewers won a season series or a series in the postseason. Since then, they had lost 6 straight series until Saturday, where they beat the Cubs. So this is now back to the NLCS. And of course, they have to do it against the boogeyman in the Los Angeles Dodgers. For starting pitching matchups, Blake Snell is Game 1 for the Dodgers. It's TBD for the Brewers. I'm going to double check now, actually, to see if we have any word on who it's going to be, because I'm kind of recording this a little bit later, so maybe they've made a decision, but I have no idea. While I check that, Game 2, the Dodgers are sending out Yoshinobu Yamamoto, while the Brewers did say Freddie Peralta would get the start here for the Brewers, so we'll know he'll go Game 2. And then from Game 3s on, we have a bunch of TBD. So still wondering who will get the ball for Game 1 today for the Brewers. Options include Jose Quintana, I think is a very likely option. And then some other guys going forward. We've seen Quinn Preister. He has struggled, but he has been very solid all year round, so I'm sure he'll get a start. Jacob Mizorowski might get an official start instead of getting 4 or 5 innings out of the bullpen. And then Chad Patrick as well, we've seen could make a start here as well. Meanwhile, for the Dodgers, I'd expect Tyler Glasnow and Shohei Ohtani in some order. Maybe Glasnow game 3, Ohtani game 4, and then a repeat of Blake Snell game 1, Yamamoto game 2, Glasnow game 3. You could put Ohtani in the pen for that game, or for game 7, excuse me. So yeah, Dodgers pitching obviously a lot better, more liked than the Brewers, I guess, for the series. The Dodgers offense definitely struggled against the Phillies. To be fair, though, if you go just through the division series, I mean, Muncy was 4 for 9, and he was the best player on the Dodgers, realistically. I mean, Alex Call was 2 for 2, so, I mean, technically it's him. Teoscar was 4 for 16. Tommy Edman, 4 for 17. Kike Hernandez, 3 for 14. Mookie Betts, 4 for 17. Freeman, 3 for 15. Will Smith, 2 for 13. Ohtani was 1 for 18. So, a lot of the Dodgers offensively struggled against the Phillies, yet they still somehow was able to sneak away with the win and the series. So, if you're the Brewers, you kind of keep a note on like how the Phillies got these guys out, what they were doing to get these guys out. But at the same time, they're the Dodgers, so the 1 in 18 Ohtani means nothing. I'm sure he homers in game 1, because of course he will, right? Like, that's just how this will work. Andy Pajes was 1 for 15, so he's going to have a nice day at the plate as well. Mookie Betts is going to have, 6 hits in the first 2 games. So, like, the numbers here, despite being extremely low in the division series, the Dodgers, they're the Dodgers. Their team will click and everything will be fine. The Brewers, their players were great in the postseason so far. Of course, only in the division series. Andrew Vaughn, 4 for 14 with 2 homers. Jackson Chourio, we mentioned, 7 for 18 with a homer, 2 doubles. William Contreras, 6 for 20. He had 2 homers. Christian Yelich, 5 for 19. So there's been a couple of those top players, specifically in Vaughn, Chourio, and Contreras. Really, those 3 have been the main 3 doing a lot of the damage. But we've seen some timely hitting at times from a guy like Blake Perkins, from a guy like Caleb Durbin. But these are some of those guys that need to turn the page, get hot. Bryce Terang, he had the homer in Game 5. He was 3 for 20 in the series. Take away that homer, he's 2 for 19. So, I mean, definitely struggled a lot. Sal Frelick, he had 4 hits, but, all kind of singles, had 1 double. He had a 594 OPS. So, overall, outside of Vaughn, Chourio, and Contreras, the Brewers' offense was kind of cold in this series. Not really clutch, besides maybe Yelich, I guess, had a nice hit, big double there. And yeah, the strikeout numbers do stay low for the Brewers. Blake Perkins had 5 strikeouts. He leads the team in strikeouts. Everyone else, 2, 3, 1. So the Brewers, similar to the Blue Jays, aren't going to strike out a whole bunch. They're going to find ways to put ball on the play. Have little contact here and there, get balls through the gaps. That's what they've done well all season series long. And I think they're going to have confidence as well. They beat the Dodgers 6 times this year, and I know that was back in July. But these are both very good teams, and I expect very good matchups here. So Dodgers, Brewers, Blue Jays, Mariners. I mean, we are in for a treat. And with that wraps up our previews for our championship series, which means we've got one last thing to do, and that's talk about one last ball game. ALCS Game 1, Mariners and Blue Jays. This happened yesterday on Sunday. The beginning of a 7-game set, best of 7, 4 out of 7 wins. 4 wins. I don't know what I'm saying. 4 wins is what you're looking for. That brings you to the World Series. 2 teams are hungry for it. One's never made it. One hasn't made it since 93. One team hasn't been here in 24 years. One team hasn't been here in 9 years. So 2 teams, both blue, both hungry. Let's talk about it. Gosman was good. Maybe was taken out a little bit too early for my liking in this one. 5 2/3, 3 hits, 2 runs, and 5 Ks. Meanwhile, Bryce Miller was everything Seattle needed and more. 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, and 3 Ks. And if you're wondering why Bryce Miller got to start anyways, it's because they played 15 games on Friday. As soon as that game ended, they went to bed, woke up Saturday morning, had to hop on a flight to head to Toronto. You take into account the time difference. By the time they land, it's what, 4 or 5 p.m.? Their first pitch is in about 24 hours. They still need a proper good night's sleep. They still need to practice. They still need to do all the research on the guys and everything. And of course, in that, do or die game 5, they had to use Luis Castillo out of the bullpen. They had to use Logan Gilbert out of the bullpen. So Bryce Miller was the guy. They were hoping, 4 innings, get us to the bullpen a little bit, who, again, all of which had to pitch on the Friday. 6 innings, 2 hits was amazing for Bryce Miller. I mean, he's one of the reasons that the Mariners, they took care of business in this game. This season's the series starts off with a bang, though. First pitch he throws, George Springer swings, belts it deep, gone. Leadoff Springer dinger. The Blue Jays are off and running early, 1-0. We would stay that way until the 6th, where a hanging slider from Gausman gets dumped by the big dumper. Cal Raleigh, a solo shot, evens the game up at 1. The inning continues, though. Gausman allows a hit. Here comes Schneider to take him out. They go to Brandon Little. Polanco had to switch sides from right-handed to left-handed because, of course, he's a switch hitter. They take away his power and give him his contact. And, of course, he just hits one down the line for a base hit. Julio would come in to score. The Mariners take a 2-1 lead through 6. Jorge Polanco, of course, the guy who walked off the game for the Mariners in that 15-inning Game 5. He comes up again with an RBI single in the 8th. Randy scores. The Mariners a 3-1 lead late. And they don't lose that series. They don't lose that game. The Mariners win it 3-1 in the best of 7 here. George Springer, his home run, his 21st home run of his postseason career, puts him 5th all-time in homers in postseason. It's the first ever leadoff postseason bomb for the Blue Jays, and of course it was on the very first pitch of the game. The Blue Jays offense that was so amazing against this Yankees team had 2 hits throughout this game. They didn't have a hit after the 2nd inning. They had the first pitch Springer homer, and then Santander had a base hit in the 2nd inning. But then there's 7 innings without a hit. Not sure what happened there from Toronto. 6 innings from Miller, then Spire, Brash, Munoz, each an inning. 9 up, 9 down, only 1 strikeout, of course, because the Jays don't strike out. But if you can't hit, you're not going to win games. Mariners take a 3-1 win, and they're going to have to look for a bounce back because the Blue Jays fall quickly 2-0. They're going to have to head to Seattle for 3 straight games, and they're going to have to take at least 2 of the 3 to bring it back to Toronto. So something to keep an eye out there, that the Mariners pitching was able to hold the Blue Jays offense. And, so far in 3 games that these teams have met in the postseason, going back to 2022 for the 2 games, and then this game, the Mariners have won all 3 times. So Blue Jays still looking for a first win against Seattle in postseason history. Hopefully is able to find it sooner than later because there isn't much time. More time than the division series, but still, Mariners now 3 wins away from their first World Series trip. Looking at the upcoming games from the week here today, it is Monday, Seattle and Toronto, Game 2. It's going to be Logan Gilbert versus Trey Savage, and all eyes will be on Savage. If he can do to Seattle what he did to New York, I feel like this series will be tied 1-1, but then I also said that because of that 15-inning game, the Blue Jays would run away in Game 1, and they ran for 1 run only. Also today, the Dodgers and the Brewers get underway. Blake Snell set to make the start for the Dodgers. Meanwhile, Milwaukee is still TBD, but I'm going to say it's Quintana because that's in my head what makes the most sense, but we shall see there. Tomorrow, Dodgers and Brewers will play Game 2 in Milwaukee. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, going up against Freddie Peralta. That's the lone game on Tuesday. Then we have another lone game on Wednesday. We're going to be in Seattle now for Game 3. Blue Jays, Mariners, Shane Bieber on the mound for Toronto. A TBD for Seattle. I would say Luis Castillo, maybe Brian Wu. We'll see how that goes, but that is what Game 3 will be giving us. And then on Thursday, we will have Toronto and Seattle for Game 4. which is TBD versus TBD, and then Milwaukee and LA for Game 3 of the Dodgers. Again, that is TBD, TBD, Glasnow / Ohtani, and then maybe Mizorowski, etc. I don't know. Regardless, that will bring us to our episode on Friday, where we will have 6 games to run over. Games 2, 3, and 4 for Toronto, Seattle, and then games 1, 2, and 3 for Dodgers and Brewers. So 6 games, 3 each. That is what will happen Friday, and then we'll take a look at the weekend ahead and see what the series are saying. Maybe, I mean, Blue Jays and Mariners, that's game 4, so if Seattle wins the next 3 games, Friday's episode is, hey, Brewers, Dodgers, their series got underway, and also Seattle swept and are in the World Series already. So we'll see what that means for the series. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is how we're going to wrap up today's episode. Seems like we did a lot, but of course, that's what happens when there's only 4 teams to talk about. You're losing less and less teams and less baseball. You're able to give more spotlight to each single game. Usually I'm making 45 games go by in 10 minutes. Now we're talking about 2 games, 3 games in 30 minutes. Like it's postseason baseball for you guys. I love you all. Appreciate you all. Thank you, everybody, so much. And I will see you on Friday.